there are various ways to look at our style of Kong'an practice. Not the basic Kong'an, what am I, and trying to cultivate this don't know and what is my true self, but the various questions that we use in different ways. So from one perspective, you could say that the different Kong'ans are teaching different aspects of Buddhism, or teaching about different aspects of mind, not in a philosophical, intellectual way, but more trying to get the student to intuitively see certain things. Before I was talking about subject, object, so some Kong'ans might be directing you towards the subject, and they are asking you in some way to become at one with the subject of the story and feel as if you were that person or that thing. Some Kong'ans are teaching about seeing situations clearly. Some Kong'ans might be teaching about compassion. Some Kong'ans might be teaching about letting go, or what is true life from the Zen standpoint. For example, a monk approached Zen Master Dongsan and asked, when hot and cold come, how can we avoid them? So Dongsan said, why don't you go to the place of no cold and no hot? So the monk got curious and he asked, where is the place of no cold and no hot? And Dongsan responded, when cold, cold kills you. When hot, heat kills you. Okay? Now, if you get caught on a word like kills there, and use it in the ordinary way that we use that word in everyday language, you won't see the point that he's making. Okay? But when we say, for example, when you're sitting, just sit. Okay? If you're completely just sitting, then there's no I apart from the activity of just sitting. There's no abstracted you at that time. So you could say that, from one perspective, sitting kills you. But you could just as well say, sitting brings you to full life at that moment. Because most of the time when we're holding some small idea about ourselves, we are limiting our vitality and our creativity and our expression. So different Kong'ans are pointing the student towards different aspects of mind and the way that we see mind in the Zen tradition. And they're pointing in a non-intellectual way. Although some of them do require some cognitive, thinking about something. So that's one thing about Kong'ans. The other thing that I like to, the way I like to view Kong'ans is this, and I've been giving interviews for many years now. It's a process, and the student comes in, they have some Kong'an that they've been working on, and let's say they present an answer, and the teacher says, yes, that's it. So then, if you're that student, you have a certain feeling, something like pride at that moment. Oh. But then the teacher will usually very quickly ask you another question that you can't immediately answer, and then you have a feeling, not like, oh, but like this. Oh. Okay? Which is something like humiliation or embarrassment. And those two, over time, it's like sandpapering your ego. Okay? And gradually you come more and more to a place of the pride side transforms into a certain kind of grounded confidence, and the humiliation or embarrassment side transforms into a kind of humility. And those two support each other, confidence and humility. If you're overconfident and have no humility, you're arrogant. If you're not confident adequately and just feel destroyed by everything, then that's no good either. So there is a process like that that goes on, and sometimes, yes, the student feels, whoa, and sometimes they might feel that way for some time, and that's no different than our daily life. We have those kind of experiences in our daily life, and sometimes people do really get stuck in those kind of things and have to go to therapy and talk it out. But in Zen practice, there is a process like that that goes on in the ongoing relationship with teachers and the ongoing relationship with yourself and with the particular questions that you're working with. So if you have a little dejection sometimes, that's also a certain kind of food that in the long run is helping you. I was telling somebody the other day, I'm a pianist, jazz pianist, and my undergraduate degree many years ago was in music. I went to a music college. So I had an old Russian woman as my classical piano teacher, and she was really old school. And so I would come in each week with some piece that she had assigned me, or some portion of a piece, like some Bach fugue, or something like that, and I'd play it for her. And sometimes, if she didn't like the way I was phrasing it, or she'd tell me, the way you're playing that, I won't attempt to imitate her Russian accent, but it was quite thick, and it added to the kind of colorfulness of this. She would say to me, the way you're playing the line, you sound like a donkey. Hee-haw! 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 On the one hand, it was very humiliating. Okay. On the other hand, I knew that in some fundamental way, she had some appreciation and respect for my musicianship, and that she was doing that because she wanted to spur me on and bring out, the best in me. But at that moment, it didn't feel good, but I could temper it by reminding myself she's doing that for, this and this reason. Sometimes, if you really get caught by being insulted or insulting yourself in some way, which is what some people do when they come out of the interview room, oh, I'm so stupid. If you get caught by something like that, then you really have lost yourself. One time, Zen Master Sung-san's procedure for making us teachers was that after he would give us an initial certification, which we call Inca, he wanted us, after a few years, to travel around and call on other Zen masters who weren't in our tradition in school, and to test ourselves in a different, strange environment. So one time I went to sit with a Japanese Roshi, Sasaki Roshi, who taught in the United States for a long time. And Sasaki Roshi was really military Rinzai Zen style. They were tough and strict, both in the sitting room and, he as an individual. So they were having a 7-day session, 7-day retreat. And I couldn't go for the whole thing because I had to work that week. So I entered the retreat on Friday evening. And they told me when you go in for an interview with the Roshi, he will ask you what koan you're working on. So I'm sitting in the line. There were many people in this retreat. It wasn't just one person sitting outside waiting to go in. There was a whole line of us sitting in, But of course, Sasaki Roshi's interviews were very quick, in and out, in and out, in and out. So I go in, I bow to him, and I say, Roshi, I've just entered the retreat. I have no koan. He says, oh, just entered? Where coming from? Okay, now I already said that. It's a Zen question. So he's a Rinzai master in the line of Linchi who would always shout. So he said, where are you coming from? I say, come out! He rang the bell. That means get out. So I bowed to him, and as I'm down in this position, he gently taps me over here with his Zen stick, and he looks at me. He says, don't act crazy. So I go out, and the next morning, again, he's giving interviews. The guy was giving about 4 interviews a day. He was like an Iron Man. And he was probably past 90 at that time. Anyway, I'm again sitting in the line, and I'm wondering to myself, now, did he really want me to have that as a koan? Where are you coming from? Or was he just, in the moment, being spontaneous with me, like you see in the old stories? I couldn't resolve the question for myself. So when I went in and bowed to him, I had to humble myself. I said, Roshi, I just entered last night. I have no koan. And he said, I already gave you koan, but you're too stupid to realize. So I said, yeah, last night you said, where are you coming from? So he said, yeah, I'm Rinzai Master. Your teacher also Linchi line, where coming from, that's a kong'an. So, if at that moment you're too stupid to realize, if you take that too seriously, you're in trouble. Not just in the interview, in daily life. You have to let it hit you. Obviously, you can't be, curious. But you have to let it hit you and also let go. That's my first teacher was an Indian Swami, and he used to have a phrase, ego pendectomy. Like having your appendix removed, what would we call it? Yeah. So he would say, practice is ego pendectomy. Okay. That means somehow you have to sandpaper the rough edges of your egotism until it turns into a kind of grounded, balanced confidence with humility. So I hope we all do that over and over and over again, and continue to practice this way of life, both formally and informally. So soon we'll resume sitting.